the 27 cars of the 2025 NTT IndyCar Series, and on the streets of St. Petersburg, we are racing. Scott McLaughlin with a peerless performance from pole keeps that lead with absolutely no problems at all down into turn one, with Colton Herta following through in second place.
Two Meyer-Shank teammates there, Rosenqvist and Armstrong, in the blue and white cars behind. They were side by side for a while, but it's single file as Colton Herta tries to catch back up after McLaughlin.
That's a big one. That's Nolan Siegel in the back.
Massive contact for the number 6 full course caution. You see the 12 of Will Power, a championship contender.
Awesome.
Now we're on board with Will Power. Nolan Siegel in the blue and orange to his left.
So side by side through one, up on the curb for him there. You see Foster to the inside. He's got to go wide in two.
Oh, it was Power.
Yeah, Nolan just had to check up a little bit.
Green is the call as they come down the start-finish stretch once again. Rosenqvist all over the back of McLaughlin, makes a move to the inside to have a look at turn one, but McLaughlin has it covered.
He's got to be so late on the brakes, but you see fifth in line there. Alex Rossi closing the gap there, side by side. Colton Herta already trying to make some moves up from 10th, essentially leading on that alternate strategy.
McLaughlin looking a little squirrely there as he tries to find temperature again in his tires, and that's Santino Ferrucci locking up, almost getting into his teammate David Malukas. Teammates Dixon and Palou come in. Jamie.
Scott Dixon makes the drive down pit road. The 44-year-old 6-time champion. He's had a good race car, started 6th. He pulls in. They'll take off those primary tires. They'll put another set of those hard primary tires on. They hold them, get it full. Good stop for the 9.
Nice stop for the 10 as well. Gets that 100% renewable Shell fuel on board, gets going again. And Newgarden in between the two. So Dixon ahead of Newgarden and Palou behind him. So Dixon takes the advantage in that battle of the champions right in the middle there.
And they talked him through it. He was able to hold on. They pull those green sidewall tires off. They put the primaries on. Another turn of the front wing. Got it done, guys.
Rosenqvist then taking the opposite of the strategy that he did earlier. He was the first guy in from the original group. Now he'll be the last. Lundgaard and Rossi don't need to stop.
As we see the 7 now dive into the pits, that is the leader, and he is going to roll the dice in a big way, going to these soft tires and try to make them last for a full 30 laps.
Welcome back to the streets of St. Petersburg, where the stops are coming thick and fast. Your leader, Scott Dixon, still out on track, but Joseph Newgarden and Alex Palou both pitted while we were in break, guys, and it got pretty close between Newgarden and Lundgaard. Here it is.
This was Joseph Newgarden's final stop of the day. Fuel goes in, 4 tires. He blends out just ahead of Lundgaard and Rossi, who are on the softer tire, but we think they have to make one more stop or hang on to slower pace.
Rossi's already actually come in, got off of those softs. He's back on the hards, but Lundgaard, we heard that radio transmission from Brian Barnhart. He's going to try to make these things last to the end. Jamie.
Scott Dixon's led 5 laps today. He pits from the lead. I just asked Chip Ganassi, team owner, any changes? He said no. Dixon's happy. 4 tires, primaries go back on, guys.
And who moves into the lead? Scott McLaughlin once again. Let's look at the blend. There goes Palou. Scott Dixon out between him and Joseph Newgarden.
Huge. Palou got ahead of his teammate by making the undercut. That could be the race-winning move for Alex Palou.
Scott McLaughlin, they made a couple changes in the 2 pit stops prior. No changes here. A little slow on the left front for the 3.
Guys, Joseph Newgarden just got by Scott Dixon in turn 1. They were side by side, almost banging wheels. Newgarden pounced as Dixon was trying to find tire temperature. Here it is, Joseph Newgarden up the inside of the 6-time champion, Scott Dixon. Newgarden throwing muscle and a little shade to Dixon. There was almost contact. It's Penske versus Ganassi once again to start the season right here. The two best teams in the sport, undeniably, as Alex Palou looks for some slipstream, looks for the perfect run to try to get by Stingray Robb. He might just send it and go for it right here.
He does, makes the move up onto the inside. Alex Palou gets past Stingray Robb. Finally, now Newgarden has to follow suit if he wants to have any chance of contesting for this win.
And it'll be interesting to see if manufacturer politics come into play here.
Oh, it does.
It does.
Gets out the way.
Stingray Robb powered by Chevy, as is Newgarden, a Honda in the Ganassi cars of Palou and Dixon. That was some blatant interference.
Well, I don't know. He's let Dixon go through as well.
Only a handful of corners to go, only one real passing opportunity. Newgarden nowhere close enough to make it happen, but Dixon, he is trying to line something up here. This isn't over for second.
Oh,
so close.
Here he comes, up and on the inside of Joseph Newgarden. That's P2 for the sixth-time champion. A great move from Scott Dixon to take second place. But Alex Palou, your reigning champion, the man they all need to beat, lays down a marker on the streets of St. Pete. Alex Palou wins the opening round of the 2025 IndyCar season as Newgarden seemingly coasting to the line and apparently out of fuel.
But it didn't really matter. Dixon, he took us back to second place. So Alex said, yeah, that's what he was just doing what he was supposed to do.
Yeah, what an amazing job by everyone at Ganassi Racing, HRC, DHL, and everybody at the 10 car. He gave me everything I needed this weekend to win. I told you yesterday that we had the really fast car, so was looking forward to the race. Our strategy changed a lot during that first yellow, but so glad that we got that number 10 victory lane. It's been 138 days since Nashville, and been dreaming about this every single night.
Up next, it's the Thermal Club IndyCar Grand Prix, Sunday, March 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern on Fox.
And just like that, race one is in the books. Welcome to the Push to Pass podcast. My name is Michael, and joining me tonight is Josh. Josh, what an incredible race weekend we had in St. Pete. The sun was shining, and it was very nice and warm. Your thoughts on the race?
It went pretty much about how I thought it was going to be. There was going to be a crash on lap one, because turn one, or first couple turns, because everybody's excited, and just like my caption says, some things never change. Palou wins the championship, and he comes back out and dominates he didn't dominate, but he ends up with the win. He's just stuck around up there and was able to ride out towards the end and win again. It's a fantastic start for his bid for 3 to match Dario Franchitti's three championships in a row. So it was a beautiful race, great coverage. I couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, I mean, the coverage was amazing. Fox did a great job, and that was the big question mark coming into the season. What is Fox going to bring? How is the coverage going to be different from NBC and Peacock? Will it be much different? We don't know. We got some answers from that this past weekend. I think Fox did a pretty decent job. Sounded like there was some hiccups there in first practice with some timing and scoring, and I think it come back a little bit during the race. But all in all, I think Fox did a pretty decent job. Obviously, they did a lot of marketing to help promote the start of the season. And I don't know what more you could ask for broadcasting. I would love for fans to chime in and maybe give some direction on that. Your thoughts on what Fox brought, and if there's any changes you think.
I didn't get to watch any of I got a very little bit of the practice on Friday, but from what just from the start, at the beginning of the race, they went row by row and had each driver introduce who he was, so that casual fan that just may happen to have turned on at the exact moment that they were that they were introducing the drivers. That was a great graphic just to introduce who I am, what I look like, because I mean, until after the race, you don't know what these guys look like. They just have helmets on, but to be able to look on the screen and see them, and there could have been some female persuasion there that thought, ooh, that guy's cute. I'll root for him. I'll go out and buy an Alex Palou DHL shirt or a Joseph Newgarden shirt. They had they did a little bit of cross promotion with Fox Baseball, which baseball season started coming up. They put Alex Rodriguez, A-Rod, in a two-seater and took him around the course, and they interviewed him just right after the crash while they were cleaning up the first crash. That was great. I mean, from what I saw, it was I won't say it was flawless, but it was great.
Yeah, I can't agree more with having A-Rod there and the baseball, presence. We talked about that last week. What kind of celebrities would be there and things like that, and obviously being Florida and in the winter up here in central Indiana, that's coming back tomorrow. Sunny Florida sounds like a good place to be, but I have seen a few comments about the cartoon characters going around. What you touch base on there with the whole, what do the drivers look like? Well, some of those cartoon characters do not look. Poor Scott McLaughlin. He looks very mean, and like I've talked to him several times. He's probably one of the nicest guys. And I don't know why Fox loves these cartoon characters. If there's the number one thing I could change, it would be that, because the starting lineup, like you said, phenomenal, great production. You got to know who they were, kind of like where they're from. So if you're like, I'm going to tune in and maybe I'll pull for this guy because he's close to where I grew up, or I like him because he's from Australia or New Zealand, or you have some drivers not from the United States, or I'm going to pull for Alexander Rossi because he's from the United States, and those things. So that was great. And then we turn into the cartoon characters, and you're like, wait, what's the guy look like, or what? So that would be my one big thing is get rid of the cartoon characters.
Yeah, one thing, I mean, on the cartoon characters, they could be maybe they're wanting to grab the kids, the younger fans, getting the cartoon graphics on there. Maybe, I don't know, but I don't know how it's worked for NASCAR. If I'm sure they'll do some polling of different viewers to go put out an anonymous poll and see, and if it's something that the fans didn't react to and they don't like it, I can assure you that Fox wants to get as many viewers as they can, and they will change what they have to get more fans to view in. And we'll go over the viewership later on, and the numbers came out today.
Yeah, we can pull those numbers up. I'll pull those now, and we can talk about those. But I can assure you of this: the cartoon characters aren't going anywhere because they just love them. So, yeah, Josh, you alluded to, we have 1.4 million viewers that watched the Grand Prix on Sunday, up 45% from last year's St. Pete opener, and it is the most watched non-Indy 500 NTT IndyCar race since 2011. That blows my mind, to be honest with you. I can't believe it's more than a Formula One race gets in the United States on average. So trending in a good direction. It's honestly, the race numbers are about exactly where I thought they'd be. So I think it's great to start with. If we can continue to grow, that would be even better.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, we're, like you said, up 45% from last year when we didn't even break 1 million. So when you sent me the numbers this morning, I was flabbergasted, And then I went on YouTube because you had told me that that the NTT puts the car, and they are up to, I think what I saw this morning, 25,000 people have. I mean, I know that's not a lot, but that's 25,000 people have gone back and rewatched the race or watched it for the first time on YouTube. That kind of grows. So Fox, I mean, they did something right. They got the word out there and they got the numbers. So hopefully they can keep those numbers going into Thermal Club here in the future.
Yeah, Thermal's coming up in a couple weeks. Yeah, I mean, I can't say much more on the viewership. I think we hit numbers that I'm honestly I'm impressed with. I think you know, I'd be shocked if Fox wasn't over the moon excited about that those numbers. And overall, I think the race was just, it gave the casual viewer something to watch. There was a lot going on with, tire strategy, your favorite topic. There was a lot going on. There was a lot going on, on the race. There was the first lap accident, which, always gravitates to people's attention. Probably, tuned in a little bit, harder to see if there was going to be another crash. Open wheel cars don't crash very well. They don't make contact very well. So, I think overall for the race weekend, you had just a little bit of everything. You had, if you were, the guy that tuned in or the lady that tuned in for the car crash, you got that. If you're someone that's there for the strategy side of things, you got that as well. If you were there for just watching race cars go in circles, you got that as well. So overall, I think, if you are any sort of fan of motor racing, you got your fix from the IndyCar race this weekend.
Oh yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I was listening to one of the Jay Query, who does the radio broadcast for all the Indy cars. He's part of it. He also has a show here locally from noon to 3, and over the last 2 days, yesterday he talked about tires, and it perked up my ears, but he actually was able to explain a little bit between the alternate tires and the primary tires, and he gave a really good synopsis or example of how the different tires are, and he used Levi jeans. If you want to go back and listen to his show from yesterday, he gave a really, and then he had Alex Palou on this afternoon for the winner, and he's going to try to have the winner of each race on every Tuesday after the race. So that'll be good if you tune into his show. And Palou was over the moon talking about how it even though he's a two-time winner, he wants to come back and win, and this was a great win for this team. So all around, I mean, I feel like IndyCar is on an uptick. I've heard a lot more talk over the last month of IndyCar. I was at the NFL Combine, and a young lady walked up to me and asked me directions. I know I'm getting off on a tangent, but asked me directions, and she told me she was from Tampa, and I asked her, I said, "What are you doing up here? Why aren't you down ready to go to St. Petersburg?" And she said, she goes, typically I don't, when she goes anywhere, no one really talks about IndyCar, but she figures that, because we're in Indianapolis, I'd like, not just because of Indianapolis, I have the podcast, and we got to talking, and her fiance works for a company that they own Mid-Ohio, and that we had a really good conversation. And I haven't had a conversation about IndyCar with anyone outside of you and Derek and anyone at the track in years. So that was good. So it's just, I feel like IndyCar is on an upswing, and hopefully it's on a rocket ship to the moon, and it's going to start growing and getting back to what it used to be. Tangent over.
No, you're 100% right. I mean, that we as, podcasters, influencers, we're here to kind of help build everything up. That's our goal. So whenever I'm at the grocery store or anything like that, I always try. And if I see someone wearing, an IndyCar shirt or different driver, I try and get them talking about that driver so we can, start a conversation about, moving forward and how to progress the sport or just different things like that, because of the simple fact that that's what it's all about. If we just sit on our hands, the sport will die. The current fans have to continue to bring in new fans. So I think it's great to reach out to fans and just encourage them to continue to follow the sport, because it's a great sport. I don't know what more to say about it other than, I always enjoy talking to fans about IndyCar, because at the end of the day, that's what I am. I'm a diehard fan that just happens to talk a little bit more about it than most people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're an influencer. I'm a casual fan, and I'm becoming more and more of a hardcore fan. When I first started the podcast, I wasn't, but I talk a lot more about IndyCar. Can't wait to get out to some races this year. So Viva la Indy. One thing I will say about the coverage from Fox, and maybe you can help me. I forget the new announcer's name. It keeps slipping my head. Oh, Will Buxton.
Will Buxton.
Brought a little bit of a, he's got that accent, and he brought a little bit of a flair to the broadcast, and just that different accent. And it kind of, I've hardly ever watched any F1, but when I have, I mean, that the foreign announcer gives it that extra oomph of excitement in his voice. I think Will did a really great job.
Yeah, if you ever watch a Formula One race, they talk. First of all, British, English people speak very fast. That's just who they are. But they talk almost constant. And some people find it annoying. I actually, when I'm watching, my wife says, "What is the guy excited about?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's talking about a battle for 15th place." Which, no one, especially in NASCAR world, they don't even talk about 15th place. So when you're getting that excitement about a battle for 15th, or you hear that influx in someone's voice, you start, you're kind of like, whoa, like what's going on? So those are the things you're like, whoa, what's happening here? Or that catches your attention too. And Will does a great job with that. He did a great job with that in the Formula One world too. So I expect we'll hear a lot more of that from him going on in the future. But yeah, talking about our race winner, we can go over the results of the race this past weekend, because it was pretty interesting. There's some pretty high notes and some low notes, but we'll look over those now. I didn't really. There was no one on here. I guess there was a couple drivers on this list that really stuck out to me that finished within the top 10. For me personally, I look at this list. I see Marcus Ericsson. Great to see him have a good run. I see Christian Lundgaard. I spoke highly of him in our pre-race or our pre-season podcast. I talked really highly of him. The biggest one for me has got to be Rinus VeeKay in the 18 car. Is there anyone that really catches your attention here on the top 10?
VeeKay, when you first popped up, VeeKay was a big surprise to me. I mean, all the others, maybe Rossi. I mean, Rossi's a great driver, but I wasn't looking at him to have a top 10. Kind of feel bad for Christian Lundgaard, leading 23 laps, and you end up with eighth. I mean, I know eighth isn't anything to shake your head out, but to lead that many, I mean, you led the third most laps in the entire race, and you end up eighth. So I mean, Kirkwood is, I feel like he's right there, but he's struggling. He's going to find something. One name that escapes me, and I can't. It's shocking that he's not on the top 10. Is Pato Ward.
Okay, well, we can go over to 11 through 21 because Pato finished 11th.
Yeah, he finished 11th, but I mean he's consistently up there in that top 10, and for him to miss out on the top 10, I know he's got to be he's got to be kicking himself. And Colton Herta being down there in 16th, that surprised me also.
Yeah, it's a big surprise. Pato, we talked about it in our preseason podcast. I said Pato's going to have some challenges from Lundgaard, and especially on the road courses and street courses because, Christian showed at Rahal Letterman Lanigan that he was pretty quick. So put him in a good car and he's going to be even more competitive. So Graham Rahal finishing 12th, that was pretty respectful, I think, for where they started the weekend. Both AJ Foyt cars right there together too. Like you said, Colton Herta, he had some issues. I think we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Connor Daly and Stingray Robb, I feel like they kind of were right there. And then you have the Prema, their first race, both cars in the top 20. I mean, not horrible. For your first race out. So, I mean, and then we get to the dreaded, ending here. We have Armstrong. He had some contact with the wall. Then you had Nolan Siegel, Will Power, and Louis Foster there, all getting collected in that first lap incident.
Yeah, I mean, like I said last week, you can't win the race on the first lap, but you can certainly lose it on the first lap. And those cars that are down there towards the bottom, I feel really bad for Will Power because he's a perennial he's fairly strong in this in the series, but it just shows that when being in the wrong place at the wrong time is not a good thing. And for him to get back into the points, he's going to have to in the point standing. He's going to have to make up a lot of ground.
Yeah, and luckily, it was one race in, but with the 17 race schedule, you can't have too many, 26, 27 place finishes. So shame for Nolan Siegel as well, starting off his kind of full year with Arrow McLaren. So some drivers digging a hole real quick. One thing I will say about that lap one incident, I watched it multiple times. I went back and watched it, try to dissect and see what happened. It just looks like everyone from actually Alex Palou and Scott Dixon, they kind of squeezed there and kind of checked up. And at the end of it, the accordion crushed Power and Siegel there. And you could listen, we were on the onboard there in the intro video, you could hear Will Power. I mean, he was not even in the gas fully. I mean, it was just such a slight, contact. So like we talked about last week, these open wheel cars, they don't take contact very well. So, that's just, it's tough luck on lap one. And it always seems to happen at St. Pete.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's I keep saying it. I will say it again. I mean, I won't say it again, but I just keep saying it. They have to calm down. I know you're amped up, you're excited, but you just have to calm down, and you have to go through that first turn, even if it means falling towards the back a little bit. Take the loss. Live to fight another day.
Yeah, and I mean that was the 11th and 12th place starter in the field that crashed. So luckily there wasn't more cars collected in that. I mean that could have been really, really bad to start the season. But we talked about points. We can pull those up now and see here the point standings as they run. Pretty consistent with how everyone finished, in the race. I mean, points don't really change much, race one, but, like we talked about, you got Polo continues to lead. I think he's led for like 300 years now, it seems like. So it will be interesting to see how these evolve going forward. You see, Pato there in 11th. Kind of. I mean, it basically follows the way the race finished. I mean, the only difference would be back here. Will Power is actually ahead of Nolan Siegel, and Louis Foster is ahead of Will Power. I'm not actually sure how that gets deciphered with IndyCar. So I kind of thought that was funny looking through, but all three of them have 5 points. So, when you're looking at first place and you see they have, 61 points and, you only have 5, a big hole to dig out of pretty early on in the season.
Oh yeah, big hole. And maybe they go by, I don't know, you'd have to bring it back up. Maybe at the bottom they go by last names, just alphabetical order. Maybe, I don't know.
Let's see. I mean, that could be.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's what it is because A comes.
I mean, we'll go with it until we get some clarification on it. Why not?
Yeah,
it works,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting season that we have ahead of us. But I did actually, I did write an article, and I'm going to try and do this after every race because I've seen other networks do it and other outlets do it, and I think it's a really good way to kind of highlight drivers, good or bad. I mean, unfortunately, we know in racing you'll have good races, you'll have bad races, and so I wrote an article that will be published soon, winners and losers from St. Pete, and we'll see if you agree or disagree. So my first winner will be Alex Palou. I think we'll both probably agree that Alex Palou, being the winner of the race, current points leader, and reigning champion, probably will put him in the win category.
Definitely, yes, he is. He is definitely a winner, coming off of his championship season, and then starting out the season with a win in the first race. It's a no-brainer. He is one of your winners for this weekend.
All right, so we'll go on the opposite end. Unfortunately, my favorite driver, Will Power, loser. I mean, come on. Team Penske spent all off season preparing cars, testing, and you don't make it even one lap. I mean, just crash it up. We'll just put it on the truck and take it back to the shop. But 3 corners into the race and he's done for the day. I mean, destroyed race car. Luckily, and Fox did announce this. They didn't interview him. Maybe they did, or maybe he refused, or they just didn't catch up with him. We're not 100% sure. All we know is he wasn't interviewed. I don't know if that was his. More than likely, it was on him. But he was checked, released from medical, and all is well there. So, yeah, we put him in the loser category this week.
Yeah, disappointing loser. I know he didn't want to start the season out this way, and I would venture to guess he chose not to have the interview just due to the fact that he probably knew his temper was high, and he probably didn't want to say anything that he shouldn't, because I don't think he thinks that is that wreck was his fault, and he was just disappointed.
So as a media person, I'm frustrated he didn't give an interview just so we could get his side of the story. But I get it. I get it in the heat of the moment. Like we said, all off season you spend just building cars, testing, physical endurance, training, things like that, to have it crashed out three corners in. Another one we put in the lose category for all the same reasons is Nolan Siegel. Unfortunate. He was the innocent bystander in the whole thing. Him and Louis Foster, both innocent bystanders, after Power just kind of got in the back of Siegel there. So, it was his best start on a road course. It was out of his control. So, hopefully Thermal treats him a little bit better. I can't hear you. You're still muted.
Yep, technology defeats me again. Yeah, I felt bad for the young, both him and Louis Foster, the young guys. They were so gung ho and wanted to get out there, and due to some unfortunate circumstances, they'll have to wait for Thermal Club.
Yeah, another guy that will be looking to rebound just a little bit from second place to first place. He's our next winner, Scott Dixon. No radio there at some points within the race. Kind of got him on that last pit strategy. Got hung up behind some cars there. He said on his radio we were just kind of flying blind out there with the radio problems. Started sixth and worked his way up. Him and Pelot both did. So smooth race for the Iceman. You didn't hear much from him until the end, which is good. I mean, if you can kind of just sneak your way up there and be consistent, consistency wins championships. I mean, we've talked about that with Pelot for forever. I would say all three of his championships he's won have been on consistency, because we do know that the ovals aren't his strongest. So consistency wins championships.
Definitely, Iceman. I know he would have rather have the win, but he'll take second place, especially with the whole radio debacle. Which I don't know. Did they say how that ended? How that happened? Was it just technical difficulties?
Probably technical difficulties.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being out there and not having someone your spotter telling you when you're getting into places, hey, such and such is here. Hey, you got somebody coming behind you, and especially to pit. I mean, I know did they use the old strategy where they had a dry erase board and they came out and they held it up and they said pit on the next lap?
No, this is not Formula One, who still uses those. No, he actually just ran to the fuel number. So, I mean, that's even more impressive. That the crew had no idea he's coming down pit road. Hey, heads up, car's on pit road. So yeah, to come in second, I mean, very, very impressive. Now, you brought up something that's very interesting that I didn't even have on the list of things to talk about, but you talked about spotters. And one of the things that I actually found interesting, and it comes from a gentleman in the media as well, Bob Pockris. He actually tweeted out that on road and street courses, spotters are not required in IndyCar. So the spotters, if they want to spot, actually buy a grandstand ticket, which I find absolutely interesting. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Knowing now, I guess I feel it's more impressive what they do without a spotter. That's just crazy. Because I wonder how many drivers run without a spotter. That would be a better question.
That is a good question. That's a good fact that I didn't know. I thought they had spotters, I thought they had spotters, everywhere. And imagine being a spotter and you're trying to get somewhere to the grandstand and you get there and the place you want to be is all filled up. You have to move around, or would you have with a street and road course with so many turns? Would you have multiple?
You would definitely have multiple spotters. I would think, or you would think maybe where the hardest part for the driver is. I don't know. Well, that's definitely something that maybe we have to talk to some drivers about this year, because that I find that so impressive.
Yeah, so, the fact that they make them buy their own ticket. That's Probably the organization buys the ticket, but just to think that I mean, me and you can go and get in the press area for free, and they're making team people buy tickets.
Yeah, it's probably somehow worked back into the pay that's given back to the teams or something. I guess I don't know, but next winner we both touched about there in when we went through the running order was Rinus VK. How he doesn't get, I mean that organization alone probably feels like they won the race. Let's be honest. I did some fact checking as I was writing this article. This is the highest. Let's see. VK ended up second in practice. In practice too, he ended up second on the speed chart. So he brought a lot of speed. This is the best starting position for the 18 car since Gateway in 2023, and the driver was David Malukas, which I find just absolutely. I mean, it's a whole year, and there. I mean, he started 12th, which respectful for Dale Coyne Racing, and then he was able to move into the top 10 and finish 9th. What's yet again was the best finish for Dale Coyne Racing since 2023. So already that experience and that leadership at Rinus VK, who's younger than both of us, is bringing to that organization. Just you can see it already just flowing into the 18 car. Obviously, Jacob Abel didn't. I mean, is there a lot of expectations for him coming from the Indy Next series? Not really. Don't crash the cars. That would probably be the number one expectation. So I mean, I don't know how someone, wouldn't find this to be a win. I mean, that team, like I said, they have to be jumping up and down with that performance.
Oh, definitely. With all the ups and downs that Dale Coyne had last year, and the uncertainty of who was going to be in there, just to bring, like you were saying during the preview, previous episode, bringing VK in puts a little bit of stability in that seat, and they can build upon that. That he can be their building block at such a young age, to be able to be the building block of an organization, and and Abel, he'll take his lumps, coming from the Indy Next, as everyone that comes from the X does. But VK, I mean, they probably gave him a trophy after that for how good of a race he ran, and bringing some stability to the team.
Yeah, I know we've all talked about it, throughout last year, like who's going to be in the 51 car this week. And did they pull the dartboard out? Did they just post pictures? But yeah, you're right. With two drivers, full season, the stability, it's things are looking good for Dale Coyne. I mean, in the leadership that Rinus brings in, and the experience. I mean, this isn't a knock on Ed Carpenter Racing, but he outperformed both their cars. So, that alone is impressive to me. Because Ed Carpenter Racing is well known. Ed Carpenter is very well known in the Indianapolis area, and to come in and see, Dale Coyne Racing top 10. I mean, just if the consistency keeps up, that'll be very, very impressive going forward. My next loser, unfortunately, is a guy I've been very critical of multiple times. And I'm actually, this is crazy, because even in the losing category, we find some sort of hope, and we find some sort of, reassurance that things are looking positive. And that's Colton Herta. I've been very critical of Colton Herta. How many times he's been leading races, some things go wrong. He gets real fiery on the radio. He's quick to, lose his cool, and then he's in the tire barrier. And it's like, okay, well, you went from possibly winning the race to maybe finishing a top 5 to now we've got a crash race car and we've lost a ton of points. Well, this year, St. Pete comes around, has a great practice. Andretti Global as a whole looked really good in practice. Qualified second, right up there with Scotty Mack, and was running pretty consistent, right there, second and a half behind Scott there for a while. And then he had a couple pit stop issues. Couldn't get the right rear on at one point. Then they had a fueling issue, and honestly, they played some of his video on the broadcast. Calm as a cucumber. Hey, we're in this, guys. Let's just keep going, keep fighting. So, hope is not lost. It seems like Colton has really matured, and Fox even brought that up. It's like a complete 180 because 2 years ago he'd have been in the tire barrier at some point in this race just because he's lost his cool. He's over pushing, driving too hard, but maturity and finishing second last year in the points, he could with the maturity he's showing and everything, he could be a championship contender this year.
Definitely, and I apologize if I just sneezed on air. I apologize. I thought I was.
Oh no, you sneezed and now you're gone. Oh no. Well, we've lost Josh, so while he tries to reconnect, let's talk about our sponsors who make this show happen. Right now, go to Always Ready 1776, and you can get all your apparel, your patriotic apparel, your headwear, and more at alwaysready1776.com. Use the promo code PUSH2PASS and get 10% off your order. And that's alwaysready1776.com, and you can get 10% off by using code PUSH2PASS. And if you're looking for home and remodel repairs, because, if you ask my wife, we need them all the time, call Gettum Associates. You can use our promo code PUSH2PASS and get $250 off. Yes, $250 off by using the code word PUSH2PASS when you are getting all your home design and remodeling done. Use Gettum Associates. And we have Josh back. Josh, I went ahead and took care of the sponsors there while you, I don't know, you sneezed and then you just decided that was enough for the night.
Today, I am so sorry. Somehow I turned off my computer and I had to pop it back on real quickly. We were talking about Colton Herta.
Yeah, absolutely.
Colton Herta, like you were saying, cool as a cucumber. Didn't blow up. I mean, wasn't the finish that he wanted, but I'm sure over the next couple of weeks before Thermal Club, he'll get those picks fixed. They'll do drills, and I'm sure come Thermal Club, he'll be right as rain.
Yeah, and even I think James Hinchcliffe touched bases on it. He said, they probably practiced this 5,000 times, and all of them were good except for, one or two. So at the end of the day, pit stops are going to, mistakes are going to happen. It's part of racing. So the best thing to do is what Colton did, even as I put him in the loser category because, finished towards the back, finished 17th, towards the back of the pack. I mean, you could easily, put him in the winning category for, his calmness and keeping cool. So, and then the next driver I have in the losing category is someone I didn't know if I should or not, and just because there wasn't a lot of expectations, and it's Marcus Armstrong. The reason I put him there is kind of two reasons. A, he qualified really well right there with his teammate. He started fourth, so high up on the grid, and he was running there for quite some time. And then he made a crucial error by getting into the wall and ended his race with a mechanical issue. And we talk about with Colton Herta, and the experience he's now come. We've got to kind of keep that in line and try and keep the race car on the racetrack. And accidents happen. Another part of racing, but you got to keep your mistakes and keep it out of the wall to a minimum. So great qualifying by Marcus. I've been high on Marcus Armstrong, another guy coming over from the F1 juniors. Talked with him a couple times at Indy a couple years ago when he was just there as a spectator. Great kid. I think I can call him a kid. He's younger than me. He showed, him and Felix both showed some speed out of the Meyer Shank cars. And yet again, with that technical alliance with Chip Ganassi, you would expect the speed from those cars as well. And you've seen it on Sunday. So, yeah, that's why I put him in the losing category, just for simple mistake. It cost you a ton of points.
Yeah, if you had like a third category, neutral, that's where I'd probably put him. I mean, he didn't, because he, like you said, he qualified really well, but just had those couple mistakes getting into the wall. But I'd say he's not a winner, but he's not a loser. Also, he's a neutral. So I think he'll learn from that, and hopefully the mechanical issue and the hitting the wall doesn't get him down, that he builds on top of his qualifying performances and goes on here in a couple weeks and shows us what he can do in thermal.
Yeah, and if you remember last year, both at least Felix Rosenquist, he qualified very well for the first few races and then kind of faded. So we'll see if that also happens this year. Hopefully not, for the sake of the team and for the sake of the excitement of the series. So I have one more winner and I have one more loser. The last winner I have is Joseph Newgarden, and didn't hear much from him, kind of like Scott Dixon. The reason I put him on this list is we're a year removed from the push to pass scandal, and now I think after this weekend we can probably finally put that to rest, and we can just move on from that completely. And finish third, kind of quiet day for Joseph, but getting points early in the season is good. And like I said, we got rid of that push to pass scandal.
Definitely, that scandal's put to bed. It's a year past. We've as long as nothing comes out this week that somehow there's another scandal, or in a month, however long it takes IndyCar. We're past it, and finishing third. He's known as an oval specialist, but to be able to come out and get third in the first race, he just needs to, if he wants to compete with Alex Palou, he's going to have to have these consistent top threes, top fives, and throw in some wins, because we know he can win in the ovals. There's a ton of ovals, Iowa, Indy, he can dominate. But if he can take these street courses and road courses and just maybe throw a win here or there, but just constantly be in that top five, he will be pushing Palou towards the end of the year for that IndyCar championship that I know he wants.
Yes, another championship would be great for Joseph Newgarden. And then my last loser, and it's not really a driver, it's a team. And unfortunately, it's your favorite driver's team. It's Juncos Hollinger Racing. And the reason I put them there, I didn't have a lot of expectations for them coming into the weekend. Maybe we'll put them in the neutral category again. You might throw them there. I kind of put them there is because they showed a lot of speed in practice. I mean, both cars were really good in practice, and then qualifying came around and they kind of fell. And then the race went pretty well for Connor Daly until he had to run he actually tweeted out or X'd out or whatever we call the post now on X, that he actually, the last stint, he had to use a used set of tires. So it kind of hurt him there towards the end. He was doing pretty well. And yet again, one of your favorite topics, tires. Tire management's a big part of IndyCar. So that's something the team really needs to work on, you know. And then Stingray Rob, one of the things, and we heard about it in that intro video that I want to kind of address, because I don't want Stingray to get this bad reputation or anything, or at least not on this channel. The team, or the Chevy politics, come on, that's far-fetched. Yes, he was pushing hard and he was holding up Palou a little bit. He was also trying to stay on the lead lap, because if a caution comes out, he makes up all that time and then he's right back in trying to gain positions and points. The minute Palou got around him, yes, you've seen him move immediately over for, you know, Joseph Newgarden at the time, who was in second. Then he had to get back on the racing line to make the next corner. And then the minute he made the corner, he stopped and got out of the way for Dixon. So it wasn't any politics going on. You just can't, you know, turn on dirty racetrack and expect to not take out. I mean, if he would have stayed where he was and went into the corner, he'd have taken Dixon out. So the politics there, I'm not sure that was a warranted comment. Honestly, I think you know, the booth would probably take that back if they could, looking back at it. And I think Townsend Bell even said, well, he did get out of the way for Dixon, so I'm not 100% sure. So good for Townsend Bell for addressing that. But, you know, Stingray didn't have a good race. Did practice well. Showed some speed in those cars. So, like I said, if they can perform from Friday to Sunday, I think the team, I think they're growing. Connor Daly brings. He's kind of like Renus BK. He brings that experience and that maturity into a team that really, really needs it. They had Romain Grosjean last year, who has experience in other forms, but, you know, his IndyCar, you know, for Romain was, you know, he had one good season. Surprisingly, it was with Dale Coyne Racing. And then he kind of got it to Andretti and just was, you know, not good. Constantly kind of Colton Herta kind, you know, crashing cars when he didn't need to. And, you know, now they have Connor Daly, who doesn't crash a lot of cars. He's got that experience. So now let's see what they can do a couple more races into the season.
Yep. Though that politics thing, that's one word I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear any politics, anything politic, even the word on sports. I hate that. But like you said, I mean, he was trying to get back on the lead lap. When one caution comes out and he's back on the lead lap, makes up all the time. Can possibly move up, and he moved out of the way for everybody else. He's not just going to hand stuff, and it wasn't like he hindered Palou in any way. Palou was able to get by him. He just had to work a little harder. So, but yeah, Huko's Hollinger. I mean, like I said earlier, I didn't watch too much of the practice. So, and I take your word for it that they were doing really well. So, I met some of the people, some of their organization last year at Indy's track, and they all seemed like a great team. So I'll be rooting for them. I mean, I'm a big Stingray Rob fan, but I'll be keeping an eye and seeing how that organization can rebound.
Yeah, if I pull it up here real quick, they were really, really fast in practice. I mean, first practice, Connor Daly was 5th and Stingray Rob was 7th. So I mean, that's first practice. I was, you know, and then Saturday rolled around and Daly was 22nd and 26th in qualifying. So yeah, just, man, if they could have found that speed they had in practice, it could have been a good race for them. So just gotta you know, button up a few things to get those cars faster. throughout the weekend.
Yeah, it might have been just track conditions for some reason on Friday were different than on Saturday for that qualifying. So until we see some more, we just have to sit back and see and watch and see what happens.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're right. We just gotta let the season play out, and we'll keep following along and with us. Yeah, Josh, you have anything else on your notepad there to talk about for the first race of the season? Nothing else. All right. Well, no, that Josh is back. There we go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No,
Well,
you're.
I want you to go on mute. No, I don't really have anything else to say. It was a beautiful race. Sometime I want to get down there. It looks like a really cool course. So
I want to get down there just for to see the race, obviously, but for the Dan Weldon Memorial they have there on the grounds. I want to get back there, or I want to get there to see that. And looking back 20 years ago, this was Dan Weldon's first win in the IndyCar series. So if you're on social media, Andretti Global posted a picture because of kind of recreated the victory lane picture, because they finished 1, 2, 3, 4 in that race with Brian Herta, Colton's dad, Dan Weldon, Dario Franchitti, and Tony Kanaan. So they kind of recreated that picture in victory lane at Dan Weldon's memorial. So I thought that was a really cool, touching moment of the weekend.
Oh yeah, that's real cool.
Yeah. So with that, I think, as Derek says, the checkered flag is waving on another episode of the Push to Pass podcast. So we will be back in a couple weeks. I think we take a week off before thermal. Is that right?
It's a possibility.
Yeah,
we'll
I
keep
believe
you
our
up to
next.
date.
I don't know. I think we'll be off for a week, and we'll be back on March 18th for another episode of the Push to Pass podcast. So for everyone here, Josh, myself, and Derek, we wish you a good week, and we'll see you next time.